the Lunar Palace, an ancient civilization home to that of the three moon goddesses, Sonnet, Arya, and Canon. Each of these three sisters were embodiments of the moon that once rose in the night skies of Teyvat. They dashed through the heavens in their silver carriage, delivering a constant moon cycle between the three moons. They all shared one very strong love, the stars of daybreak, and of course, the love they had for each other. Between a Seelie ancestor and a supposed traveler from afar, the two fell in love with each other, and even swore an oath of their union in the Lunar Palace with the moon goddesses. However, one day, a tragedy hit the Moon Sisters and their people. 30 days later, a disaster struck out of nowhere. The Seelie ancestor and her race withered away down to the states we see them as today. At one point, they were beautiful beings with immense wisdom and guided humanity. It's a real mystery as to what happened to these people. Today though, I think I solved that mystery. But before we begin though, if you enjoy Teyvat's facts and wisdom, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. After the video is over, join us over in our community Discord server, where we talk all about Genshin, including lore. Okay, with that said, let's open the Teyvat dictionary and see what's been uncovered. We know the three sisters, known as Sonnet, Canon, and Arya. They were the moon goddesses that filled the sky of Teyvat. At one point though, they turned on each other and were slain. The only thing that was left was a pale moon corpse in the sky. It is mentioned in Moonlight Bamboo Forest that if one of the sisters failed to change the moon cycle, a disaster would befall them. 30 days later, after a union witnessed by all three of these sisters between an Outlander and a Seelie ancestor, everything turned for the worst. 30 days. Sounds like a moon cycle didn't happen the way it was supposed to. Why is that? Well, we'll get into that once I explain more about who these moon goddesses were. These goddesses, in my eyes, were the original overseers of Teyvat before the likes of the Archon even showed up. I believe these three moon goddesses were worshipped by the inhabitants of Teyvat. The overall premise of Primogems, the resin being shaped like moons, the idea of Paimon being a starkeeper, and the icon behind the blessing of the Welkin Moon. Ashikai did a very in-depth and well-created video based on Paimon being a starkeeper. I will leave that video down below for you guys to go check out if you are interested in that. With the latest reveal and world quest line on Surumi Island, titled Sea of Fog and the Rite of Trees, we find out the mystery of the Thunderbird and what happened to the ancient tribe on that island. In doing so, we find our way underground to some ancient ruins. These ruins deliver us some new and mind-blowing information. First and foremost, let's take a look at this mural. We can see that on these mountains, there are star-like fragments on them. And what's really interesting is that in the top part, we can see a moon. Within that moon, I don't know about you guys, but that looks very similar to that of a palace within that moon. We do know of such a place, known as the Lunar Palace, depicted from the Moonlight Bamboo Forest. Now, if we move on to what some of this text reads on the walls, thanks to the courtesy of Chill with Aster, I didn't have to translate these, so shoutouts to her for doing that. She also made a really awesome theory in regards to Conria, so once again, I encourage you to go check her out after this video's done. Some really peculiar text was translated. As we know, Genshin has a lot of Latin ties, so one of these texts states, so I don't butcher any of these names, I'm just going to put them on screen, which roughly translates to ascent to the wisdom hidden in the stars. Another text states, this translates to, we are in faith of the moons. So we have a general idea now that these moon goddesses could be the original gods that were worshipped here. I'll go over the term original god more later on. What happened to these moon goddesses though? Well, from what I stated earlier, a tragedy befell them after a Seelie and an Outlander fell in love with each other. What do we know about Outlanders? Well, we know two twins from another world that apparently broke one of the heavenly principles. The Sustainer wasn't too pleased by this, and therefore we see the Traveler get separated from their respective sibling. This same exact scenario of one of these principles being broken many years ago could have been the disaster that struck between the moon goddesses with the Outlander and the Seelie. As to what heavenly principle was broken, I couldn't tell you that, but I do think that the Sustainer is behind the moon goddess calamity and why we see a dead pale moon in the sky. As I'm sure many of you guys know, the Sustainer is thought to be a fake demiurge god inspired from Gnosticism. I couldn't tell you how the Sustainer got here, but there are plenty of videos on YouTube that can explain what Gnosticism is and who the Demiurge could be. In the future, I would love to take a crack at trying to figure out more of these mysteries myself, about this supposed Demiurge. The Demiurge is supposedly a fake god though, and isn't the original god. Once the moon goddesses were gone though, this supposed Demiurge took over, and then we see the rise of the Archon War and the rulers that followed. It's been heavily theorized that everything in the sky of Teyvat is a lie and a hoax. The ancient people of Surumi Island clearly know this, and therefore their ruins are still there hidden away for anyone to find them and to learn the secrets of this world. We also hear that the sky is a hoax from Scaramouche during the Unreconciled Stars event. During this event, we also learned about constellations. Everyone has a constellation outlining what their life is going to be like. Constellations are, in a sense, like the ley lines, as they contain a person's life/ambition. The entire premise of the traveler's adventure is to find the secrets of the world of Teyvat, and apparently our sibling traveler has already uncovered the truth and thus seems to be attempting to overthrow the current Celestia. With the power of the ley lines, the ruins, and other sorts of hints, we learn more about what Teyvat was like before the Archons even arrived. The Conrians, too, also seem to have gotten a bit more knowledge than they were supposed to as well, and apparently also were seen as a threat to the divine. It seems that any civilization or being that threatens the principles of the Demiurge's Teyvat gets punished in some way. We see instances of this with the ancient civilization on Dragonspine, in which they questioned Celestia's authority, thus being punished with the Skyfrost Nail. To even further back up that Teyvat is a lie, in case you didn't already believe it, I've always seen the world of Teyvat as sort of a two-dimensional plane, in which the upside is constantly facing the sun. Since we know that the stars and the moon are a lie, a fraud, you can't really have too much trust in the fact that night in Teyvat actually currently exists, especially since the Moon Sisters have died, with one of their corpses being hung up in the sky, illuminating a cold glow at all times. Since again, we see this corpse simultaneously in the Abyss and in Teyvat. One of them is an illusion of the corpse. My guess, the real corpse is in the Abyss. I believe there was a day and night cycle in Teyvat only after Celestia arrived. The murals in Surumi favored this since they figured out long ago that the night sky is a hoax. Plus the fact we see these individuals have writing on their murals that roughly translates to Trivia, Diana, and the light of the moon are a hoax, lie, and fraud. Here are some dope images of Diana. Lastly, to wrap up this theory, I believe that the moon goddesses were the original god. From what we know about Genshin Impact's Chinese translation, it means original god. I believe that all three moon goddesses were the original god. But Tave, how is that possible considering there are three moon goddesses? Well, let's take a look at the moon goddesses from neo-paganism. In neo-paganism, there are three female figures depicting a separate stage of the female life cycle and the phases of the moon, being the maiden, the mother, and the crone, and often oversees realms of earth, the underworld, and the heavens. In neo-paganism, this can be seen as the triple goddess, and could be perceived of a greater single divinity. The term triple goddess can also be used outside of neo-paganism to instead refer to historical goddess triads and single goddesses of three forms of aspects. Christianity is seen with this in the form of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In Christianity, those three parts of the cross also symbolize one holy God from a monotheistic religion. In Genshin, we see this symbol a lot, known as the Triquetra. Before you scream at me down in the comment section below, this is future Tave. Apparently it's pronounced Triquetra, and it's been seen in ruins, domains, and on our beloved emergency food. It's been speculated that this Triquetra could represent one single divinity of the three moon goddesses, and we even see aspects of this symbol being broken. Perhaps this symbol is broken due to the tragedy that befell the moon goddesses. One last interesting note I want to make is that the Seelie people used to live alongside the humans while the moon goddesses were still alive. We can call this time Old Teyvat. In my Dark Sea video, I explained the War of Heaven and Hell and how the Seelie people could have been the angels of Teyvat and how they guided the human race. In Drunkard's Tale Volume 3, the Seelie singing to the wolf refers to a place called the Hall of Angels. The Hall of Angels could be referring to the Lunar Palace, aka the palace before the Demiurge showed up and wreaked havoc. Now, the gods of Teyvat are labeled with names from demons from the Ars Goetia: Barbados, Baal, Morax, etc. My final take is that these archons or demons took over the land of Teyvat after the tragedy of the Lunar Palace, with the Demiurge being the new ruler of Celestia. There is still one mystery though, and that is Paimon being named after King Paimon. That part is still a mystery to me, but I also don't think Paimon's original name was Paimon. And there's also the idea that Paimon is the supposed god of time. To be able to master time in Teyvat is certainly a deadly power, and maybe the Demiurge has caused Paimon to revert back to this small form, thus also blocking her memories of what her previous self used to be. I believe Paimon to be connected to the Lunar Palace somehow due to her attire, and once again, being the icon of the Welkin Moon. Therefore, I also think she could be one of the previous moon goddesses. But I don't know. You tell me. Well, that wraps up my theory. What did you guys think? I'm dying to know your thoughts down below. Are the moon goddesses really the original overseers of Teyvat? I would guess yes, but we don't know the real truth until we get further information. Anywho though, I hope you guys enjoyed this take, and I wanted to give a shout out to all the people that gave me a hand with this. Thank you so much to my friend Rag, my friend Casual Bananas, and all the great theory videos on YouTube that helped me get to this conclusion. I will leave a link in the description below to all these videos. So thank you guys so much, and thank you so much for the Genshin community for coming up with these great and awesome ideas. Anywho though, thanks for opening the Teyvat Dictionary, and I will see you in the future for more Genshin Impact content and lore.